The big things in life get all the fanfare, but when you think about it, it's the little things that can be the greatest pleasures, like a cold glass of water when you're dying of thirst. Small pleasures. Classic Petit Fours, tiny cakes topped with the smoothest icing, powder puffs with jam and whipped cream, Canneles flavored with rum, and Lait de Poule, delicious eggnog with orange flower water. I'm making a whole tray full of blissful bites. I just love the girliness of Petit Fours, those little tiny cakes for tea time and after dinner treats. The classic ones are like little gift boxes. That's what I'm making first. I need the oven at 350, and I need a machine. So this cake is a very interesting one. Genoise is the base for many desserts that are assembled. And the reason is that it's a cake that has a tendency to be a bit dry, but that's perfect because then you can soak it with flavorings, which is what I plan to do. 4 eggs. And you don't even separate them, which you'd think you'd do. Now you can tell this is a European recipe because it calls for ½ a cup plus 2 tablespoons of sugar. And whenever you see plus 2 tablespoons or plus 1 tablespoon, don't get annoyed because it just means it's a translation from the metric. And vanilla, putting in a teaspoon. Plug your ears. And then, because you don't want to lose any volume, you just add the flour very gently. You know what? I'm even going to sift it over because I want it really fine. And then fold it in. 1 cup of flour. Just a pinch of salt. Just cut through and lift over with the batter. That way, the flour mixes through evenly and you keep the volume. And then pour it into a lined pan so that it's easy to get out. See how nice and billowy that is? And then it just needs about 25 minutes. There are several little steps to this recipe. Cake will be too dry if it doesn't have some stuff to drink up, so I'm going to just melt some red currant jelly. It's a great baking jelly, so I can spread it on top for a nice glaze. Now you just want a little splash of water in the pan. And I'm melting 3 tablespoons of jelly. Now I'm just going to let that cool while I roll out marzipan. Marzipan is almond paste. It's very tasty and classic in pastry shop desserts. You just buy this in cake shops. I'm just going to roll it out into a flat square to fit the top of the cake. Safe. Just peel the paper off the bottom and then just brush the top with this jelly that keeps it moist. Once the marzipan goes over, I'll have a perfectly smooth top. I'm just going to trim it a little bit. Now, I want this to be really cool, so I'm wrapping the cake And then gently move it to the fridge. And let it get nice and firm. I need to make a fondant icing, which requires a big pot because I always make a mess. Some corn syrup, just a tablespoon, and 2 tablespoons of water. Just needs a little heat to dissolve the corn syrup. I need 2 cups of icing sugar. You can add many flavorings, but I'm adding Kirsch because it will go well with the red currants. 2 more tablespoons, just to thin it out. Now, my cake. The cake. Doesn't need very long, just, you know, even half an hour in the fridge and it gets nice and just a bit cold on top and firm. Now, because these have to be perfect squares, I'm going to trim the edges before I cut. The term Petit Fours means little ovens, actually, because it was made originally out of leftover bits of cake that bakers and pastry chefs would have had. Now, you start from scratch, but sounds fancy, but it was actually born of economy. Just take the squares and set them on a rack because I'm going to pour that fondant icing over top. To decorate them all with little silver balls. Very cute. If you think these look girly, I'm about to make powder puffs and they're even girlier. I'm indulging myself in small pleasures. Actually, this one's a big pleasure. It's one of my favorite things. It's a recipe from an Australian friend of mine in Paris, and they're called powder puffs. They're lady fingers, only round, sandwiched with whipped cream and raspberry jam. I need 3 eggs, whites separate from the yolks. So first, flour, half a cup of flour. Just mixing the dry ingredients together first. And cornstarch, it's really another form of flour. Makes them very light. A bit of cream of tartar, 3/4 of a teaspoon. And this is half a teaspoon of baking soda. No guilt here. Now, once they're in soft peaks, some sugar. So I'm scattering 3/4 of a cup of sugar on my soft peaks of egg white. And now I'm going to make them into stiff meringue. So when you've got a thick, marshmallowy meringue, this is the weird part, you whisk in the yolks right on top. And then the dry ingredients. I think I'll sift them in. Just to make sure there are no lumps. And then I'm going to fold the flour in, but with the whisk. You don't want any lumps in there, and it just, if you use a spatula, it won't be mixed thoroughly through. So just fold all the dry ingredients through until you've got a nice fluffy batter. It's quite stiff. Now let me get this mess out of here. I need the oven on. 425. Hot. Now you can make these as large or as small as you like. I don't like them too big because they spread out a little bit. I mean, they should be like a big cookie, except they rise up. And just drop them by tablespoons so they're not too big. They'll look great. Okay, they just need 5 to 7 minutes when they should be risen up a little bit and pale golden. I like them a little golden, but not too brown. And just the right size. They're a little bit springy, and as they cool, though, they'll harden. Now, the filling is cream, vanilla, and a little bit of sugar. This is my addition. Actually, they're so much better with a little bit of raspberry jam. You put the top on. I love that. I love it. If you want, you can dust icing sugar on top. Dreamy. And I know just who's going to love them as much as I do. Why don't you eat a little cake? I brought you some cake.
I have one.
Good. How much?
25 cents.
I just pour it myself?
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness, you've got lots. Next, I'm making canneles. They're crisp on the outside and marshmallowy in the center. Good lemonade. Now I'm making a regional specialty called canneles. And canneles are named after the form. They're fluted cakes flavored with rum, marshmallowy inside and crisp on the outside. It starts with milk in a pan. A cup of milk. And 2 tablespoons of butter. And heat. Now some flour. Half a cup of flour. A generous half cup of sugar. And eggs. Just going to mix them up in a bowl because in fact it's 1 egg and 1 yolk. The other name for them is Bordelais because that's the region they're from. But in Paris, we call them canneles. That's just come to a boil. I can turn that off. So I'm adding the eggs right to the flour, along with vanilla. These are for grown-ups. Rum, half a teaspoon. And now the milk, I think I'm going to need a whisk. I want this smooth. It turns out kind of like a crepe batter. I want it to be nice and smooth. think I'll just strain it into here since I'm in a straining sort of mood. And then it needs refrigerating. And that will help it rise even more. This should be just about ready. It requires a very hot oven at the beginning, 450, but then it gets turned down. This has had 2 hours, this batter. You could leave it overnight if you like. It's the same with madeleines, you do that. Now I'm not filling it all the way to the top because they puff up. Now these are going in for 15 minutes at 450, super hot, and then I'm going to turn it down to 350 to finish, and that's so I get a really crisp outside and a nice chewy interior. Now this is going down to 350 to finish, just for about 45 minutes. Oh, well, they're done. I have to say, they're going to be delicious. They hump up a little bit, just like madeleines and financiers. They all do that. It's that battery kind of preparation that does it. These nice fluted sides, and I like them nice and dark like that. See, when you break through, they're kind of very chewy on the inside and they have a nice crisp exterior. Yummy rummy. Lait de Poule, delicious eggnog with orange flower water. Orange flower water, because life's little pleasures come in liquid form too. I'm making lait de poule, which is kind of a joke because in French it translates to chicken milk, but it means eggnog. Okay, so the first thing is to infuse milk with some vanilla, 3 cups. Vanilla bean. That's for the best quality vanilla flavor, but you can buy liquid vanilla too and just use that if you want. It's faster. But I am taking pleasure in the process. So for bean, you just have to split it, and this is a nice fresh one, really plump, and scrape the seeds out into the milk. I'm bringing it just to a boil, not letting it boil all over, and then I turn off the heat and just let it sit for about 10 minutes to suck in all the flavor. Now, only egg yolks. It's like custard, only really, really thin, basically. 3 or 4 is right for this amount of milk. Now sugar, I'm going to add right to the yolks. I think 4 yolks, 4 tablespoons. That's just to a simmer. I'm going to turn it off and just let it infuse for 10 minutes. So once the milk has got all the vanilla flavor, you just whisk it slowly into the yolks. And then back over here and back on the heat, just for a few minutes to let it get slightly thickened. Now I don't want this to boil because then it would curdle with those egg yolks, so I'm just heating it gently until it's slightly thickened. Now that this is nice and kind of sloshy thick, I'm going to turn it off and just let it cool down. I want it at room temperature before I do any more. Nice. Just at room temperature, and it has a lovely scent of vanilla, but I want more. Orange flower water, which is just so delicately floral. So just a little splash. So I'm straining this just to make sure it's super duper smooth. And then I just want it nice and cool, so I'll let it chill a little bit before I indulge. Classic Petit Fours with fondant icing, luscious powder puffs with cream and raspberry jam, tiny little baby Canneles cakes flavored with rum from Bordeaux, and eggnog with orange flower water. Oh, that was for me? Did you bring me flowers? Look at that. You having more? Go ahead.